Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of SO NWA, the podcast about serving others in Northwest Arkansas.
That's right. We're your hosts, Enrique, and I'm here with my brother Juan Carlos. We're both proud natives of Northwest Arkansas. Growing up here, we've seen the community evolve, and we're here to share the stories of the people who make it so special.
That's right. Each episode, we sit down with the makers, movers, and everyday legends shaping life in the Ozarks, from real estate to restaurants to local legends to hidden gems. We're not just podcast hosts, we're also local real estate agents, helping people find their new place in Northwest Arkansas.
Absolutely, guys. So whether you're from here, you're new here, or you just love a good story, you're in the right place. So if you ever need help with real estate, buying, selling, or just exploring the area, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We'd love to help. And let's go ahead and get into this episode for today.
Man, guys, today's episode, we're real excited to have our guest here. Like I said in many episodes before, we have a very special guest with us all the time. But today is a good friend who I've known for quite a while. And I'm really glad we're going to catch up and hear his story to tell you guys. But I've known this person from back in the day. We went to Elmwood Middle School together back in 8th grade. This was probably around 2004 or 5. He's been someone I keep hearing about in the community, and I knew, like I said, I wanted to have him on this podcast. He's built a reputation for leadership, mentorship, and being someone who genuinely shows up for others. His work and education to the new ventures he's pursuing now. Christian continues to make a positive impact here in Northwest Arkansas, and today we finally get a chance to sit down, reconnect, and hear his story. Everyone give a warm welcome to Christian Saavedra.
Yeah, man. Well, glad to be here. Appreciate you guys opening up the mics for me to share a little bit and about the journey. It's been a fun one. And man, you're talking about Elmwood. That brings back memories.
Yeah, dude.
That's been quite a while. But yeah, it all started, down on 13th Street, and a lot of fun at that school. And seems like yesterday we were there, but
it does.
We're getting a little older.
So. That's right, man. We got to keep it going. But yeah, no, exactly. Elmwood will forever be one of those, to me, one of those schools. I think, Enrique, you went to Oakdale?
I went to Elmwood and Oakdale. So I went to Elmwood until about halfway through, I think it was 7th grade. And then from there, I went to Oakdale.
Was it a junior high when you went, or was it already a middle school?
It was already middle school.
Okay. That's how you know.
Yeah.
That's how you know how old you are. Yeah, you're a little younger than us. Okay.
Yeah. He's got Juan Carlos has maybe 9 years on me, I think, in terms of age.
Yeah.
So yeah, you guys are definitely older.
I was gonna say, when you said 7th, I was like, I think it was a junior high when we went.
Correct. Yeah. So that's how Rogers School District had it, right? It was 6th and 7th grade was one school, which was, I think, middle school. And then 8th and 9th grade was one school, that was Elmwood. It was Elmwood Junior High.
Yeah.
And then Rogers had the Sophomore Center, which was just for 10th graders back in the day.
Which is now Kirksey.
Which is the new, Kirksey.
Really? That's why that middle school seems like a big building for a middle school, because it used to be a sophomore center.
Just for sophomores.
I always wondered why that school was so big.
Yeah.
Now I know.
Yeah. That's the story behind that.
And then you went to high school as a junior and a senior, right? So it was just juniors and seniors at the high school. And I think in 2009 was the last. It was either 2009 or 2010 where they stopped doing that, and they did what pretty much everyone knows now is 9 through 12, right?
Yeah. 2009, because we were the last senior class to stay together, and Heritage opened without a senior group.
That's right.
And that's when they started.
Yep, that is correct.
That's so crazy to me. You're just jumping from so many different schools in like a year or two, especially when you're a sophomore. You just go to one school and then
Well, and it's interesting because when you look at, not to get nerdy here, but when you look at research, transitions are actually not good for, that many transitions are not good for students and learning. And so at the time, we were having to jump through so many hoops to get to the learning. And, maybe the research hadn't caught up to what we were doing, but, or vice versa. But now we know that putting kids through that many buildings, different cultures, different rules, expectations, probably wasn't the best for us as far as the learning piece.
Well, I mean, it makes sense, right? Because you're kind of disrupting the flow of their everyday rhythm, no? Because from what you're saying, right, they could be 1 year, they're going to be in this one schedule, then the next year is going to look completely different, right? Different environment. So when you go consecutively 4 years or 3 years for middle school, I do agree that it would make it a little bit easier for a kid to kind of get into that flow.
Yeah. I do remember when the which is Courtesy Middle School now, but it was a sophomore center for us. We were the first kids in the building. So we got a brand new building.
Nice.
In there. So it was kind of cool. We were, like I said, we were the first kids there, and I don't know, we just kind of made it our own. But then, the next year we left and went to Rogers High School. You know what I mean? So
nice.
But Christian, thank you again for joining us and being here. As always, we want to give the honor for spending time with us here. So thank you again.
Absolutely. No, this is great.
Yeah. So Enrique, what's new, man? What any life updates? What's going on this week?
Man, just living life, I guess.
Living life.
Been practicing my golf swing. I'll tell you that.
Your what?
My golf swing.
Oh, golf swing.
My golf swing.
Oh, golf swing. So forgive me. Yeah.
Yeah. It's I went. When was it? I think maybe 2 weeks ago now. With Francisco, Victor, and Brian. They're the team members. Francisco's our team leader.
Yeah.
And we went. And dude, I was horrible. I kept missing every swing.
I've gotten into it, and maybe for a couple of years I've gone a handful of times, and it's one of those where like you go one hole and you're like, okay, maybe I could be good, and then you get to the next one, and I don't know where you're at in your trajectory, but for me, I'm like, I'll hit a really nice ball off the tee, and then all of a sudden I hit a tree on my next one. I'm like, I don't understand. Like it's the same mechanics, the same person. Like what's going on? So, but it's definitely a fun sport to get into.
It is fun. It's definitely hard because it's so technical, I think. I didn't realize how technical it really is. Yeah. You worry about how you're holding the club, how's your grip, how are you swinging, how's your back swing, how's your front swing, are you swinging down on the ball, are you slicing it, it's definitely tough. So I've just been kind of practicing my swing a little bit with the irons.
Must be nice.
I'm not any good, but
we might need to go and lose some balls in the water.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah,
let me know, man.
I like it.
I'm definitely down.
Where do you, Enrique? Where do you guys go?
Last time we went with Brian, it's because Brian had asked us to go. We went to one in Cave Springs.
Oh, okay.
I don't really know the name of it, unfortunately. I mean, that was the first time I had gone. So I don't know the name, but it was pretty nice. We did 9 holes. We did the back 9. I know there's another course by Sugar Creek over there in Avoca.
Bella Vista, there's a bunch of them. Yeah.
Bella Vista también?
Yeah, okay. There's a ton in Bella Vista. The one you were talking about, probably the creeks.
It probably is that one.
Yeah. That one. Cool. That's the one in Cave Springs.
Yeah. That's what I've been up to, just practicing golf, working, helping clients, all that. What about you? What's going on with you, Juan Carlos?
Man, nothing much. Just winding down from a busy weekend, but a good weekend. I had my baby shower this past Saturday. And, I had family in town and friends. We all got together for this baby shower. Saw all these packages you see in our front in our hallway here. It's not from Maritza's shopping addiction.
I was like, man, y'all been busy with Amazon, man. Yeah.
Dude, no. So really shout out to all the people that have sent a gift to us for that. It really means a lot. And the time will come here soon in the next few months that it'll be another addition to the podcast. Yeah.
Hey, there you go.
Go. Nice.
I gotta pause that. Baby's crying. Run out the room. Nice. But yeah. So I had family in town from California. We hosted them here at the house and they were here for a few days. So just taking them out into town and showing them around. They always enjoy. It was my dad and his wife and two kids. And, they show them the new stuff. And the last time they were here was about 3 years ago. So, as we know, it has changed so much in 3 years. So I kind of updated them with the new stuff and they really had a good time and then they left. So so I'm winding down. Christian, how about you, man?
Man, we got back, wife and I went to República Dominicana, for about a week and went to Punta Cana, this all-inclusive resort. And we've done, Cancun, Mexico before. This was our first time going there to this area and it was nice. They actually had a golf course in the island.
Did they? No way.
But I couldn't get in with a good tee time, while I was there. Mm-hmm. But that's something that after we did a bike ride around the course, after going there, that's definitely on the bucket list.
Oh, for sure.
Man.
Imagine.
It would be awesome. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
But so came back, actually was sick for a few days and finally feeling better. And I did 2 bike rides lately. I like to mountain bike. Mm-hmm. Did about 14 miles yesterday. Man, every time, kind of talking about the growth, every time I go out on Crystal Bridges, it seems like a new branch of the trail gets open and it's just fun, man.
I believe that too, actually. Yeah, I feel like I think I remember hearing that the trails are being worked on year round.
That's what I've heard, and I feel like you can definitely notice that the upkeep is there, even if they're not making any additions. They definitely do take care of the trail systems in our area. I mean, you notice it every day. I mean, you bike pretty frequently, I imagine. So I'm sure you notice that it's never dirty. It's never really kept.
I was like 6-7 miles into this trail, and I hear this noise, and it's somebody weed eating around the mountain. Like they're just cleaning things up where you literally would never know, but they keep it nice and clean. And so, yeah, shout out to the Waltons, I guess, for taking care of the background. In our trails.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. I met with Francisco earlier today. We went to go shoot some content, and he mentioned we were talking about the Waltons. They're like, man, like. Isn't it crazy that the Waltons kind of made their own city, you know? They kind of made their own trails. And
they sure
did whatever they want.
Yeah,
they sure did.
So no, I definitely agree that the trails are up there for sure. They say we have one of the best mountain bike trails. So Christian, go ahead and give us your answer. So first question: morning person or night owl?
Definitely night owl.
Okay,
that's cool.
There you go. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Oh, nice.
How do you like your coffee?
Yeah, how do you like your coffee?
I like it. As long as it's coffee, I don't care how it comes out. But
hot or iced?
Ice in the summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But
I'm a coffee snob, you would say. Like I in El Salvador, we had our coffee bean fields, pretty close. So like good coffee is hard to find in the area, but we have our own espresso machine, and so we definitely before I came here had a little shot of espresso, and so I like mine black. If I have to choose, I'll take it black, but I'll take a cortado here and there.
Nice. So. There you go. Favorite Salvadorian dish?
Easy. Carne guisada.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's good right there. Easy. All right. Go-to hype song before a big game.
That was a hard one because there's so many, but I think Dreams and Nightmare by Meek Mill.
Okay.
Listen to a clean version unless you want to get hyped and listen to the full version.
There you go. All right. Messi or Ronaldo?
Messi all the way, man.
There you go.
Okay.
All right. Dream vacation spot.
Clásico Barcelona, Real Madrid.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Something you say a lot during your games.
Now what? I think so. My role in the training is to teach the boys what it should look like on different parts of the field. The way I see my job doing games is I just need to remind them of the training. So motivation wise, I'll do a lot of that. But really, the one as I've recorded myself in games, the one question I ask them a lot is, now what? Something goes right. Now what? Something goes wrong. Now what?
Ooh, right.
And
that's pretty good.
That should trigger the training, right? And when I say now what and there's no reaction, that's feedback for me. Just because I coach it doesn't mean they learned it. So that's how I know if I've done my job during that week. So.
Right. I like that because then at that point, I like how you put it, depending on where it's going, if it's going good or it's going bad, and you ask them that question, it gets them curious. Yes. And it gets them maybe try to find their confidence in a way to kind of figure out that problem, the solution.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
I like that. Yeah,
I like that.
That's cool.
Sure. Alrighty. Last question, Christian. One word your players would use to describe you.
I think honest, honest and fair. To be honest to your word, to your question, honest. I would say that.
Okay. I like it.
We talk a lot about competitiveness and being able to, be honest with each other and face the reality that we're in.
Right.
And, I'm big on praise in public and criticizing in private. And with my players, when there's questions about playing time or things like that, I always encourage them, come out and talk to me. My office is open. Let's sit down and do that. We do exit interviews. We do preseason interviews where we talk about each player's goals. And the rule we have is if you're willing to step into that office, you got to be willing to hear the honest truth, according to my perspective. And I'm the one that decides the playing time. So maybe you should adjust certain things that I want to see. But I think the big picture of that is, in the real world, we all have a boss. We all have a goal or a standard that we keep ourselves to. And it doesn't really matter whether we feel like we're better than this or that if the standard doesn't show that. If the data's not there to back it up, well, then you got to keep working towards the standard. And so we definitely are honest with each other. And one of my favorite parts about coaching is the fact that I get to be honest with them. But at the same time, when it's appropriate, I ask them to do the same thing with me. And I ask them, hey, you got to be honest with me. We have a rule. It's hey, if you say something to a teammate about a decision I made, you get to do that. I played soccer my whole life. I know I had opinions about my coaches. But you better have the courage to go and say it to the coach, to his face. And so that's really where that comes from, is we keep a pretty honest environment where, hey man, my goal is to build young men, and
Right.
at the end of the day, you got to be honest with yourself. And you want more playing time? Well, here's the truth. Here's what the data shows me.
Right.
And yeah, that's how we make it work.
Oof, I like that. I like that a lot. I think I know where you're coming from, and even then, it's almost it's how do I say it, multi. You can use that in different.
That's the goal.
Yeah,
that's the goal for it to translate into life.
Correct.
Because they're gonna have a boss that they're not gonna agree with. Well, you can't just go out to your boss and be like, "Well, I disagree with you." No, you close the door and say, "Hey, first of all, ask for a meeting. Maybe the timing is not right."
Mm-hmm.
We talk about it's little things. If you go to hopefully after this podcast, you guys can come out to one of our games, and what you're gonna see is little things like when a player is substituted. We don't talk about substitution. We talk about solutions. And so if you're a solution that's coming off the bench and going onto the field, we look at on film. We look at how does that player that's coming off react.
Right.
And are you shaking people's hands? Like, are you shaking my hand? Do you have questions? Are we going to sit here and talk? How long do we sit there and talk? Because if you ask for a 10-minute explanation during game time, that's a training question. Per my previous thing. Well, now what? Well, you're asking me things that we should have learned at practice.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of that to say is like, it translates to where if you're coming off the field, you might not agree that you're the one that needs to come off, but that's not the time or the place to show that. And your body language shows that.
Absolutely.
So
what do you do in that situation whenever for example, you have a player that comes off of the field and they're maybe pouting or they're not happy with the decision that was made? What do you address it in that moment, or like you said, do you wait until afterwards?
Thankfully, I have a lot of good dudes there as assistant coaches, and so everybody has a role. And we practice that. At practice, we practice how to disagree.
Yeah.
And so we talk about that. And it's been a few years since I've had situations like that. But definitely, in a smaller scale, if I see a player's not happy with it, now I get it. I played. I was never happy if I came off. I understand that part. But if it gets to the point where I feel like, we have kids watching all the time, and like, I'm big on that. Like, if a little kid watches you come off, that kid might come and try out next year. Mm-hmm. He might think that's okay to do in this program.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So the way I address is I bring the player in. You're going to hear me yell a lot when it comes like to instructions or like that. Now what thing like,
right.
But when it comes to discipline, it gets difficult when they're tall, but I'll get them down here. I learned this from my grandma, man. She never yelled at me. She always kind of whispered things to me that were important when we were out in public. So the boys will tell you, they know they're in trouble when my arm goes around their shoulder and I'll cover my mouth and I start talking to them really soft. And so I'll just remind him of the standard. I'll bring him in. And I mean, it happened in the quarterfinals. We had one of our players, I took him out and actually some video at some point where he's asking me a question and he seems frustrated, and I'll look at him and I just remind him of our standards. And I said, hey, you're making it about you right now. So do you want to have a conversation about you, or do you want to talk about your team? Because you're a captain. So you need to sit down and make it about your team and change my mind that you are here for the team. You have about 5 minutes to figure that out. And then what's cool about that is my assistant coaches just figure, okay, he's done with that conversation, and they step in and you see one of them come up to him and start talking about, working it out, because somebody should be having that conversation. And in about 5 or 6 minutes, I needed this kid to step back on the field, and he's ready. And so we have a system to where I remind him of our standard, remind him that it's not an I thing, that we're there for a team.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I have some good dudes that, by the time we get to season, they understand that, it's not personal, but at the same time, if we're going to do something great, then it's not going to be easy either.
Yeah. I like how, it's funny, right? You whisper at them, right?
That's clear.
I feel like not necessarily intimidating per se, but you're showing them that you're being serious, right? And that you're letting them know about what's going on and
absolutely
to fix that issue and to maybe react in a more positive way. And I like that because it'll help them also, not just in the field, but I think that could also help them in their personal life, right?
Yeah.
Maybe a relationship with their parents, significant other, whatever the case is. I think showing them that, or those values, will go a long way.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, and I think don't get me wrong, first practice, but it's all about where in the environment, right?
Sure.
First practice going into the playoffs, it's 6:45 because we're practicing in the morning. For 6:45, I had gotten there about 5:40. I set up the field and everything, and 2 of my best players show up late to our standard. Now, that time, I didn't whisper to anybody. I got them in the middle of the field. I let them know exactly how I felt about lateness and the fact that, this idea of like we arrived, like all of a sudden we haven't been late all season, but now the day before we start training for the playoffs, we're late. So in that moment, they got to hear a little louder voice.
Right.
What I've learned, and the reason why that works for me, is because since I'm not always in that mode, whenever I go there, it's more meaningful. Right? Like if you're always yelling, always loud, that's just noise.
They just like blow you off.
They just blow you off.
I mean, I had guys like apologizing after practice after that one, like, "Hey, coach, am I still going to the tournament? Like, coach, was that me that you were talking about?" Like, I mean, because I was pretty straightforward with them. I was like, "If you're late one more time, like your butt's going back to class, and you're not going to the playoffs." I was like, "I don't care if you've started every game. Like at the end of the day, we have a standard. You can't win a championship with guys that can't show up on time." And so. Yes, I do have those two. I think as a coach, you have to have that duality of it. You have to have that under your armor. But at the same time, if that's your only mode, then you just become noise, like you said.
Right, man. That's some Coach Carter stuff right there.
Man, I try to keep up with people, man. Yeah, try to learn from people.
But you know what? Kids at that age need that, man. And I could even say, I wish. At that age, right back in, as early we were talking about junior high and middle school and all that, man, I wish I had somebody like that to pour into me, right? Just reminding or even just showing like this is the standard, like you call it, and this is how life is, and this is where our hard work and integrity and all that comes into it. And if no one is requiring that of you, then you're not even going to really give it.
Yeah.
Right. If you go into a workplace and everyone's just doing whatever they want, I mean, you're going to do kind of the same thing. You know what I mean? But I didn't want that for myself, and I don't want that for my team or, staff or anything like that. But yeah, that's a very good point, man, that it's very impactful for sure. For sure. And I think that the boys are, anyone who you work with or mentor, I think they're really lucky to have someone who has that vision.
Well, and it's through trial and error. I've learned a lot. That's the version you're hearing now. It's 11 years of coaching. But really, one of the things that I learned early on was that reflection piece is so important to grow. And just like I was honest with my players, I'm honest with myself, and I keep a journal of all the things that I wish I would have learned sooner or things that I learned during that season. And what I always think is when I hear you talk about, well, I wish I had this, I wish I had that, I think as we get older, we start seeing the gaps, and what we do with those gaps is what makes us a leader or an impact in our community. And what I noticed was when I started reflecting, it was that there was an opportunity gap where I needed to come in, and I feel like I always had good soccer players in the program. I've always had good players that come in, but it was not the soccer piece that was keeping us from winning. It was the rest of the stuff. It was always the somebody showing up late before we get on the bus, somebody forgetting the uniform. So, and it's not like, I don't want to say like, oh, well, those kids were undisciplined. It's just a lot of times at that age, they don't have the systems that we might have, Before we started recording, I talked about like, right now, I don't know where my glasses are, but there's at least a system. Like I have a way of tracking things back. I have trackers on my keys and things like that. But when I was a teenager, I didn't have any of those tools. And so as a leader, as a coach, what I hope to do is to fill in that gap for my players so that they can be successful. And by the time they're 18 years old, they graduate, they should have enough training, enough rules that they followed to where anytime they ask me for a recommendation, well, if they played for me for 4 years, that's a recommendation because they've made it on time. They haven't gotten kicked off the team. And so all that to say is I try to be the closer of the gap in my kids' lives, so that they can have an easier life than I had at times, because an undisciplined life is a hard life. And I think that's for sure. That's where I hope to kind of close the gap there.
Yeah. It reminds me of, I hope I'm not going to mess up this phrase, but I see it online. It's, either you can choose to suffer from discipline now or suffer whatever the results
disappointment.
The disappointment, whatever. It's like 10, 15 years, 20 years down the line.
That's really good too. That's really
good. Which I think it's so true, right? Being disciplined can be tough on certain days. And for certain people, it comes harder.
Yeah.
But I think making that sacrifice now rather than later is for sure gonna pay off.
Yeah. And delayed gratification is not a big principle when you're a kid. You want things now.
Yeah.
It's definitely an adult.
It's definitely a long-term game.
Yeah.
Man, that's good. That's a great question, Enrique. I love the...
Yeah, I'll have to look up exactly what it is, but it's something along those lines. Where it's saying like, choose to suffer now, or you're gonna
suffer at some point. It's just when you suffer.
Eventually.
Yeah.
for sure.
So Christian, tell us a little bit about, if you're not originally from Northwest Arkansas, how did you discover Northwest Arkansas and what brought you over here?
Yeah. So I grew up in El Salvador, and with about, I think I was 13 years old, 2003, actually July 4th, 2003 is when I got here, and grew up over there with my grandma, and through different life circumstances, I ended up moving here to Arkansas, and I was initially supposed to go to California. At the time, gangs and all of that was pretty tough in El Salvador, and so I was always playing soccer, staying involved, and thankfully, was able to stay away from trouble for about 13 years. But it was getting to the point where, like, anywhere I went, I had to deal with the violence and gangs and stuff like that. So my grandma thought that it would be a better idea for me to move out of the country and come live with my father. Not knowing the language, like being dropped off in Arkansas. There was there was enough Hispanic people where, like, I felt like I found my crew. But definitely those first few years, man, it was kind of a tough transition. So grew up over there, moved here at 13, learned the language, English is my second language. And then kind of just in about a year of me hanging out at the parks, kicking the soccer ball, I met one of my mentors, Coach Barker. I was in Spanish class. I'm not proud of this, but this is how I met him. I got kicked out of my Spanish class because I was probably joking around. And, and so he meets me out there, talks about, hey, how come you're always out here? I was like, oh, she don't like me. And he's like, well, no, you're a clown. I'm like, well, yeah, that's true. But he ends up hooking me up with a tryout for the team. I think I was in 9th grade now because I was coming into the high school, and but because it was a junior high, we were still at Elmwood. So shout out Coach Barker, and he introduced me to soccer here in the area as far as being able to play in an organized fashion. I remember that I went to tryouts not knowing the word tryout in English. And so every day I would go to this, in my opinion, I was on the team already and I was just practicing with these guys. And every day kids would leave like crying. I was like, what is going on? Like, these kids are crybabies over here. Like, what's up with this? And then, like, finally, like, we all made it. And my homie Chico, he comes up to me and says, hey, congrats, bro. Like, he's Salvadorian. He's talking to me, Salvadorian. I was like, congrats. What you talking about, bro? Like, what's going on? And he goes, you made the team, bro. I'm like, wait, I wasn't on the team already? He goes, no, this is a tryout, bro. I'm like, what? What's a tryout? Like, es una prueba. And I'm like, oh, what? I'm like, I thought I was on the team the whole time. So it was at where New Tech is, we used to call it the Kirksey Fields.
Yeah.
It was, the trials were there in those grass fields. And so, yeah, man, I got here, get on the team, and then started playing club soccer after that. And, through soccer, I learned a lot about transitions, and I always had a good support system with my friends and my coaches through there. So,
how long was this tryout period that you were playing?
3 days.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So for 3 days, I just kept showing up. It would have been really awkward if I didn't make it because I would have just shown up. I thought I was on. Like, I went home and told my dad, like, "Hey, I'm on the high school team." Like, day one, I was like, "Hey, I'm on the high school team." And then
I'm proud of you, son.
Yeah. He's like, "Oh, good job. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You need to get involved." I'm like, "Great." And then, like, I remember asking Coach Barker about the uniform piece. I was like, hey, so when do we get uniforms? Like, in El Salvador, I played, and we got uniforms right away. Like, what's going on? And he kind of blew it off because, there was like 100 kids there. And, man, I wonder how many teams. Like, I had all these questions, but I didn't speak the language. And so I was just kind of just show up. I would play. I would score some goals, get some high fives, and go home. And then ride my bicycle there, actually. And, 3 days later, I found out that kids were crying because they didn't make it. And then I was like, oh, whoa, okay, that's awkward. But here we are. So thankfully I made it.
So is Coach Parker or Barker?
Barker. Yeah.
Is Coach Barker one of the particular coaches who shaped your soccer philosophy, or would you say it was back in El Salvador that you had that love for soccer?
You know what? My Salvadorian coach, I had a couple, but my school coach kind of did a little bit of the whatever it takes mentality. Where he was the guy, I actually never told this story, but multiple times, I would be hanging out with maybe kids that were involved in certain things that I shouldn't be over there. And my coach in El Salvador was the one that would show up to pretty dangerous spots back then and would literally pull me out of the crowd and be like, hey, get in the truck. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on? And he would lecture me, talk about, if you're going to be on my team, you can't be hanging out with these kids and all of that. And so that's kind of where the first version of a mentor came in El Salvador. And then I get here, and I think that's why I clicked with Coach Barker so much, because I wasn't hanging out with 4.0 students either. But at the same time, I wasn't involved in gangs or anything like that here. He kind of did the same thing. And so I think it's a mixture of that. But at the same time, Barker was the one that I think helped me through the many transitions that I had. And so definitely the whatever it takes mentality that I have with my players comes from the coaches, you know, like Prof. Enrique in El Salvador and Coach Barker, you know, here. It was definitely, you know, like he made us do cross country. And I thought, well, why are we doing cross country? I hate running, you know, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Well, he said, well, if you run on Saturdays, because cross country meets are on Saturday, you can't party on Fridays, you can't go out. And so you're always busy. You're always,
that's good.
Man, like that's good.
Like implementing those little habits to lead you to success.
And he never told us that at the time. Like I just figured out later on, I was like, Coach, why'd you do that? He goes, that's what he told us. Well, you guys were always busy. And so we were running on Friday to prepare for the meet. Then we went to the meet. We were too tired to go do anything stupid. And he's like, and then Sunday you should go to church. So there you go. Then make it a practice on Monday.
Nice.
So he had to figure out, man.
Wow, that's such a cool way of doing that. That's cool.
So to answer your question, I think Coach Barker has shaped a lot of the whatever it takes mentality that I have with my team.
That's a very subtle but very
love,
intelligent. Yeah,
that's love,
and a very intelligent way to kind of keep you in line without really telling you, hey, don't be going to no parties, don't be getting drunk or whatever. I think that's a really smart way of going about it.
He's a cool dude, man.
That's awesome. Is that because off the podcast we were discussing you're the dean, is that right? For
dean of students at Crossroads.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I got the title right. Do you think that's what kind of maybe made you gravitate towards that school? Because we mentioned off the air that, you know, not all students have that ability to work well with traditional schooling. Is that kind of why you went that way? Or?
Yeah, I think, you know, as I reflect about kind of the trajectory of my professional career, I've always had that kind of chip on my shoulder of like dealing with unfairness, dealing with, you know, there's stories that I'm not saying about, you know, growing up with my grandmother without mom or dad over there. There were things that maybe I wish were different about life. And thankfully, my grandmother did a good job at like, instead of sitting there and complaining with me about how life was unfair, man, she put that mindset on me. It's like, okay, mijo, like things are unfair, but what are we going to do about it? And so I've always had that in the back of my head where like, I challenge the status quo a lot, but then I go and do something about it, you know, like, and that's where the dean job at the moment seems like the perfect job for my philosophy of education, because I always think of education as a place where, yes, you get to do academics, but the biggest development should happen in the character and the traits and the way that you treat others. And so I think it's a good marriage of the two, of the disciplinarian that I believe to be and of the educational leader that I am, where I get to look at kids and say, well, hold on, you know, you might not like school, the version that you've gotten before, but can we find a lane for you to be successful? Because at the end of the day, humans are pretty simple. We want to belong to some, you know, bigger than ourselves. We want to feel confident about ourselves. And I think the power of being able to say no to things that are not good for you comes from confidence. And that's where I think my dean role, you know, I love it. And I love working where I work because I'm able to look at a student that's at Crossroads, and people, I read the other day, like people can tell how you feel about them, whether you tell them or not. So if you want somebody to change, like let's say somebody that you're like really having a hard time with, just change how you think about them. Like change how you talk about them when they're not in front of you, change how you think about them. And there's power in that. And I think we can all relate. Like we've met somebody that before they told us how they felt about us, we kind of felt the tension there. We felt the distance there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I go into every year with my students, with my kids over at Crossroads. And I believe that they're the most precious kids that I've ever worked with. Like I don't look at their history. I have to be aware of the big mistakes that they've made, but I'm not going to talk to them about who they were 6 months ago or when they were not under my care, you know, because if you did that to me, like if I wouldn't want anybody doing that to me. I've had mistakes. I've learned a lot. Right. And so if you judge me based on something I did when I was 17, 18 years old, Coach Parker kicked me off the team my junior year. Well, I got myself kicked off the team. I was eating cookies on the bus. Okay. It's my birthday. I'm eating cookies on the bus, and the bus driver tells me to put them away. I thought we were cool. Bus driver and I were cool. So I offer her one instead of putting them away. Well, she took that disrespectfully. So next thing you know, she's kicking me off the bus. Barker was big on discipline. I threw the thing about, well, that's not fair. I was like, she never says anything about us eating. And so then all of a sudden, I catch myself for about 4 months. I was not part of the soccer team. And, I had to write an apology letter and do all of that. And Coach Peck and Coach Barker now, we laugh about it just because thankfully I was able to get myself back on the team. But if you judge me based on those 4 months, then you might be like, well, that's not a good kid, or I was a clown. I always thought, I dealt with conflict or anything like that with humor. So that was not a good moment. I'm not proud of that, but I learned from it. And that's what I hope to instill in my kids, whether it's as a dean or whether it's as a coach, is you're going to have tough moments in life where you might not show the best version of yourself, but can you bounce back, and really, can you show growth, right? That's what it should be about. And so that's my hope, man, that I'm able to merge both of those.
Yeah, I think those hard moments in life definitely make people who they are, whether they realize it in that moment or not. And just like everyone, we all go through hard moments. Mm-hmm. I've been through hard moments myself. Absolutely. And I think they made me to where I am today, to how I run my business, how I interact with my family, how I interact with my fiance. Absolutely. Strangers cool. Even. I think it's huge to realize whatever you're going through, eventually, I think it's for a reason. And so you'll learn something positive, I think, from it. Eventually. It'll help grow your character, I think.
Yeah. So that's very true.
That's what it's about.
Yeah, that's my opinion. I think it's all part of life. You live and you learn.
That's it. Hey, shout out my podcast. Live and learn.
That's right. Is that what it's called? Really?
Live and learn.
Learn. That's everybody go check it out, man.
Yeah. Shameless plug over here.
No. Go ahead, plug away, man. There you go. So, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was last year you led Heritage to the state.
It was this year, yeah.
It was this year.
It was this year.
Well, technically school-wise, last year.
Technically last year. Okay, but this year. Yeah, so how did that feel for you? Like, whenever that happened, what was going through your mind? How did your players react? How was that experience?
Yeah, so we started the season off as one of the teams that we knew we had the best goalie in the state. I mean, Nico is a heck of a goalie, and we had good defenders. We had a pretty solid team where this group, we had made it to the semifinals the previous year. So there was some unfinished business there. Mm-hmm. We had graduated our forward, Carter Leegee, who's now playing at Oklahoma Wesleyan. And so we knew we had pretty much every piece except for we didn't know who was going to be our top scorer this year. Right. And starting off the year, when we came to reflect at the end of last year, we talked with the future seniors a lot about some things that maybe we needed to adjust. And one of those was there were times where, because of how involved our kids are in, their jobs, their families, and their responsibilities outside of school, 7th-hour soccer really wasn't working for us. Meaning, I remember preparing for a game and 5 of my guys having to go to work. At times, both of my goalies having to go. So all of a sudden, how do you finish a practice without goalies? One of the big changes that we made was we moved soccer to first hour. So we started practice at 6:30, some to 7 if we had late start. But so that's kind of where the mentality started with this group. So we started talking a lot about suffering together, and you hear me talk about one purpose and what is that? What's our one purpose? Well, we talked about, hey, every single day we have the opportunity to be the best version of ourselves. And sometimes that best version is a sleepy version that worked really late last night, but you still show up. And what matters is that you show up. And if you show up and you're tired and that's the best version you give me today, hey, you know what? We appreciate that you showed up and that we're going to develop that version today. And so to answer your question about how I felt and how I still feel, it's happened in May, but I feel really proud of the growth that I saw from my kiddos. The fact that we didn't have anybody that scored 10 goals. We had a couple guys that scored 4 or 5. But at the same time, that kind of developed our mentality on defense. And we found pride in the fact that it didn't matter. There was one team that scored 3 goals on us the whole season. And that's the team that we eventually beat in the semifinals.
Benville.
Benville, yeah.
Yep. High school or West?
Regular Benville.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
So that was the only team that
I
scored
heard
3
about
on us.
that. Yeah.
But we learned. So here's what's interesting. Actually, I've never talked about this. We played that second game. We played that game against Bentonville. And as a coach, I get in my car. So one of the cool traditions that I have is after every game for 11 years, I always call Coach Parker. I always call him after every game and just reflect. Hey, here's how I feel. And I just remember, man, I was doubting myself because we had won some games prior to conference. Then we start and we lose to Bentonville West, and respect to Bentonville West, but normally we compete well with them. And then we lose then we tie, then we lose to Bentonville. And I'm just thinking like, man, what is going on? Like we have to get a goal. Like we just couldn't score. And so I'm trying to reshuffle the midfield and I'm trying a different formation and all these different things. And in that moment, we're a possession-based team. And I had to come to terms with the fact that it wasn't going to be pretty soccer this year. I wasn't going to develop a lot of patterns of passing anywhere on the field. And if we were going to beat teams, we were going to have to do it by playing to our brand this year, which was different than in previous years. So from that game on, I decided that with the help of my assistant coaches, we decided that we were not going to build out of the back. We were not going to be Barcelona. We were just going to play more direct. We were going to, everybody after every goal kick, we were going to tuck in, send the ball long. We had a lot of size in the midfield and up top. And so we were just going to fight for that ball up top and try to keep the team away from our goal and if we got 2 shots in the whole game, maybe we scored 1 of those. But if not, we were just going to tie a lot of games. What's interesting about that change of philosophy for this year was that it was Bentonville who beat us and forced me to look within, and then we ended up beating them using what they taught us. You know,
Funny, right?
but that's the importance. I guess the reason why I said this is that's the importance of learning from your mistakes. Because in my opinion, it was a mistake that I tried to build out of the back at the beginning of the year in a sense of I just didn't have what you can have 15 passes from your goal all the way up. But if you're not going to put it away most of the time, it's coming right back.
Yeah, it's not working.
It's not working. And so then that obstacle allowed me to rethink some things. It was from then on, we tied, won, tied a few more games. I believe it was 13, 14 games where we did not allow a single goal. So that became our brand, man. It became really difficult to score on us.
Yeah. Would you hear that from people? Oh man, that's a team that nobody can score on them. Would you ever hear that or no?
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of times though, it's funny because, and you're going to see, we call that noise, but I don't talk to a lot of, I'm kind of a isolated person when it comes to season. I'll talk to a couple coaches in the area that we Magdalena, Ben was one of those that we text back and forth. I like to learn from other people, but as far as the outside world, man, I do not engage in those type of conversations throughout the season. And I'm sure somebody out there was saying those things, but I really try to focus on, I don't read tweets and anything like that. I just
you were locked into the team. You were locked into the game and trying to grow y'all's teamwork and just focus on.
We call that noise. We talk about it on the team, and we just call that noise. We're like, because distractions, man.
Yeah.
A fun thing that I can tell you is like we go into the playoffs, and first game we play Cabe. We beat them with after 2 overtimes. We beat them in the golden goal. Then we play Brian, beat them in penalty kicks. So we scored 1 goal in the first game, no goals until PKs in the second game, and then we're going against Bentonville. The previous year, we had played Springdale in the quarterfinals, and they were number 1, just like Bentonville was. They were nationally ranked. One thing that I think makes me a good coach and has allowed me to have success is the fact that I don't know how, I wish I did because I would write a book about it. But somewhere along the lines of me developing my philosophy and my mentality, I came to terms with the fact that there's always going to be what everybody else sees from the outside and what they want you to believe. And then there's the reality of every game, you have to play it no matter who you are.
Absolutely.
And you just got to go through and play it and find out. And sometimes, a lot of times, that's why teams are ranked and they're good. A lot of times the best team wins. Oftentimes, the best team on that night might get the result. And what I learned from that Springdale game, we ended up beating them 3-1. And that's how we made it to the semifinals the previous year. Lost to Catholic, who we beat in the finals this year. So a little revenge there. But what I learned there is, I remember having a conversation in cabin with the boys the previous year, and I said, everybody take out their phones and then put out their phones out there. I said, because it was about 10:30, and it was literally the last 20 minutes I could keep it up because I try to keep a pretty tight routine. And I said, how many text messages do you have right now that's telling you that you're going to beat Springdale tomorrow? I said, come on, everybody give me a number. And then one kid was like, my mom texted me, good luck. My girlfriend said this. I was like, so not like 30, 40, like not. I said, okay. Well, then I showed them, and I had two, one from Mike Devaney, shout out Devaney, and one from Coach Barker. And that was it. And so I said, so tomorrow, I said, after the game, doing a little visualization here, but I said, so tomorrow after the game, after we beat Springdale, just remember, your phone is going to blow up. They're going to want to make you believe that you're Messi. They're going to want to make but all those people, they're just hyped for the moment. They're just hyped.
Yeah.
Powerful. Damn.
Yeah, they're not there to see the grind. They're not there to really.
That is correct.
Because we're in the lobby. We're in the lobby watching film of Springdale. I'm sure they were asleep already because they were ranked. They were the better team. They hadn't played the day before we did, and ironically, it was Cabe that year too that we played. And so I just told them that. So the next day, man, I can't. I'm telling you, I feel like it was yesterday when this happened. My captain, center back Ivan Contreras, stands up, and we're celebrating, going to the hotel. Beat Springdale. And he goes, hey, everybody took out your phones. And they start shouting out numbers, 25, 40, 50. And there's
no way.
I had 120 messages plus, and it was that. So then this year going into Bentonville, we did another thing where we shout out to our administration. We really have good support in our community for our team.
Yeah.
And, we went and decided to, even though we played at Bentonville, what I learned from having soccer in first hour was all the different things, all the roles that my players played in their community. And so therefore we decided we're going to stay at a hotel even during that time.
Right.
And we ended up staying at the A-Love Hotel, which, thank you so much to the general manager there. They helped us out, with a good discount for us to be able to stay there. And we were able to lock in and go there, and kids didn't have to go to work or do any extra stuff. And so I think this year we were able to have that same conversation before the Bentonville game and do the same thing. Hey, remember how many messages you have right now that saying that you're going to beat Bentonville tomorrow. And if you ask anybody, they'll be lying to you if they told you that they thought that we would beat Bentonville at their house. They're hosting a tournament. They got all their fans, everybody there. Unless you grind, unless you saw the development that on the first game we played them, they beat us 3-0. On the second game they played us, we tied 0-0. Unless you are, indulging in the process, you might have missed that. They had a great attack, so they continue to beat everybody else. So they got ranked. We tied a lot of games, but we didn't lose a lot of games since that first game that we lost to them 3-0.
Yeah. And
so, in my opinion, it was a game of styles. It was going to be if they showed up with their style, and if we did a couple of things. We man-marked their best player, which is so old school, but we had to do that. He's an amazing little kiddo. And I thought, what other team this year has man-marked their best player? Because if you do that, they have to have a plan B. Well, thinking, if I'm Bentonville and I've scored 100+ goals, everybody's telling me I'm going to win state this year, do I really have a plan B? And when have I had to use it?
Right.
And so we marked their kiddo, and all of a sudden, they didn't have a plan B. And they scored on us first, actually. They scored, about 10 minutes in, they scored on us. We end up scoring right away. So they didn't even have time to celebrate their goal. We scored the next play.
Yeah.
But that goes to tell you, we had plan A, plan B, plan C. If they figure out the man mark, because if you man mark somebody, all of a sudden he moves to the middle, now you have an unbalanced formation. So we thought, well, if that happens, we'll just add an extra holding mid, and that extra holding mid will pick him up. And so we had a plan A, plan B.
You were ready for anything that they were going to be.
We respect, they're nationally ranked. We're playing against, the local Barcelona, whatever. So we're and all of a sudden they didn't have plan B. We scored. They also didn't know what to do now. It's 1-1. And then, 5 minutes later, we get the second goal. So now we're beating them at their house 2-1. And man, we had a whole section of alumni. We had, a lot of people from the community that came to support it. And it's just, I get excited talking about that game just because
Oh man.
it's a testament of like, we didn't let the noise in. I didn't read any tweets, later on I've got to read some stuff that went out, like, Bentonville, gets upset by Heritage, and for us, it wasn't an upset because they beat us once, we tied, and if you paid attention to the way things went for us, it was a good game in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it was kind of projected that it was going to be.
It's going to be a heck of a game.
Yeah,
and so. Yeah, that's how I feel, man. I feel excited. I feel like I can relive every moment.
Yeah. Dude, that sounds like a good game.
We can hear the passion behind it.
Definitely, man. Dude,
it's been a special year.
Dude, that's cool. That's cool. Man. Well, Christian, it seems like you've had a lot of growth over the years. You've had a lot of great mentors to when it comes to soccer, even in your kiddos and everything. What is, or how do you continue your own growth as a coach, as a mentor, in education at home with your boys, all that?
Yeah. So every year I go to different conferences and stuff like that. And but this year I have decided I'm going to get back in to some club coaching. A friend of mine, Kevin Teo, is back in the area. And so I'm going to go in and I'll be coaching, I think it's a U14 Ozark team, the new professional team.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to get to learn from that group of coaches. And I just surround myself around people that, that are growth minded and
like-minded people.
Or people, or even different.
Yeah.
Just people that I can learn from, that have done it differently, right? Like, for example, Kevin, who I mentioned, has coached at the high school level, college level, has worked with players that are now playing professionally. And so, I continue to grow by surrounding myself with people that, challenge me. I go to a coaches conference for a week every year around February, where I get to learn about, the game and different ways of doing it. That came in handy this year. Last year, I went to this conference and I took all these defensive classes from Italian players and just kind of learned about how the Italian mentality, and they play with a 3-back, and a lot of them do. And so I learned about how do you rejoice in the suffering of playing a defensive style, not knowing that I was going to need it this season. And then I get an exchange student from Italy that kind of brought out the same mentality. So, man, it's God. It's somehow it all just worked out. But yeah, I surround myself with people that challenge me and take classes. I reflect a lot.
I love it. Yeah, it's being open-minded for sure to growing and maybe changing some things that maybe aren't working, or maybe you want something to be a little bit different. I think that's really the best way to approach things, situations, and maybe even hardships, right? Maybe think, okay, if this isn't working that I've been doing, maybe I gotta talk to this person. They do something different.
Absolutely.
And that's going to help me go in the direction that I truly want to go to.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
So looking back here, you moved here. Remind me again when you moved back to North Carolina.
2003.
2003.
Yeah.
Okay. So you moved here 2003. Let's say you could talk to your younger self back in 2003. What would you say to encourage that younger self, that younger Christian? What are you telling them?
Yeah, I think a lot of the stuff that I tell my players now, it's the same stuff that I would tell that kiddo, like, hey, keep dreaming, man. Like, because I think the power of imagining better things for yourself is crazy, man. And I think at the time, even with the, financial restraints that I had and just maybe some of the stuff that I had to deal with from a young age, I always had big dreams. I always thought that one day I would have my own house, I would get married and do all those fun things, drive a Tacoma because, if Salvador has to. But like, that's hilarious. I would just definitely, encourage to keep dreaming and just tell it, hey, it gets better. Like the language piece was hard at the time when I got here. Like English is a hard language to learn. And so I would just encourage you to hey, keep dreaming, keep working for those dreams. And you might not know how, but at some point things will start clicking. And yeah, I think that's what I would tell myself is don't stop dreaming, man. Don't, one of my favorite lines from a movie is, from the movie NWA, and they're doing an interview, after they had like a, controversial song that they performed. If you haven't seen the movie, hopefully you have. But, and the reporter asked I think it's Ice Cube, but, hey, don't you feel like, your rap or your music is encouraging violence amongst the youth? And his answer, to me, is one of the most poetic answers I've ever heard from in a movie. It's like, well, sir, he's like, we rap about our reality, we rap about what we see outside our window, and he asked the guys like, hey, what do you see outside your window? And dude, that stuck with me because when I lived in El Salvador and I looked out, I didn't have windows and I had one room where I grew up. But when I went outside, I didn't see things that made me hopeful for the future. Getting here, I saw everybody had a car, everybody has a house, everybody has these nice things.
Right.
And so then all of a sudden I started dreaming, dude. Like I used to drive around Pinnacle. I had some friends that lived there. I used to drive around just looking at houses and being like, man, so one day I could maybe get one of these, right?
Yeah.
And like things like that where you're just like, the imagination is powerful. And if you surround yourself around people that have, strong mindset about growth, then, next thing you know, you might be sitting here talking to two awesome dudes and talking about championships and, stuff that maybe I wouldn't have imagined at the time, but by enough exposure to successful people and the right surroundings, lots of education. I think anything's possible.
Absolutely, man. I think dreaming big gets you curious to find the answers on where to make those steps to make that dream a reality.
Make some changes.
Make changes for sure.
Changes,
so staying curious, that's gonna. I like the way you said that, man. That was good.
Yeah, a couple of years. That was my word. I used the word curious. I try to do this randomly where like I'll pick a word that I'll try to learn more about. In a few years, I just curious, and I just had it on my lock screen. And anytime I got upset at something or I had a situation where I maybe didn't agree, before I went and acted on it, I would ask lots of questions, because I think there's power in being curious through conflict and through disagreements. We learn a lot about people when we're curious.
Agreed.
So,
man, that's very true. Well, Christian, is there someone that anyone in your life, family, friend, any mentors you'd like to recognize or thank for them shaping you who you are today? Like a shout out to them.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked a little bit about, Coach Barker. I think he's one of those dudes that, has definitely helped me, on the development as a man, like just understanding, the power of your word and things like that. So shout out to Coach Barker. Definitely all my coaches that I had, whether in college, Coach Peterson, he took a chance on a short center mid for a Division II school. At the time wasn't very likely, but it definitely allowed the opportunity for me to go to college through soccer. So always thankful for him. Anytime I get any type of recognition, that's one of the few people that I usually call and thank. And definitely my wife, man. She helps me out and puts up with my crazy schedule. And, she, I don't know how she does it, but she's able to balance, being supportive and also being able to set up, our routines and stuff like that. Because when I tell you I get tunnel vision during soccer season, I really do. And so I'm grateful to have a partner that helps me, reminds me that there's life outside of soccer whenever I forget that. So
cool. Shout out. That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. I think, having anyone special in your life, right? But, someone as intimate as having your significant other, keeping you in mind and just being a huge support to you. I think that's super valuable. I think everyone could use someone like that in your life. So I'm glad you have that person in your life for sure. Christian is, obviously we're natives here to Northwest Arkansas. You've been here since 2003. So we love to highlight our area. We love where we live. We're big advocates of Northwest Arkansas. So for example, let's say you had maybe a friend, a family member, they're coming to NWA for the first time. Where's the first place you take them and how would you describe the area to them?
Yeah. I would tell them that, I hope that they like the outdoors because, I mean, if you're born in Arkansas or in our area, you just haven't stepped outside, because there's so much to do.
Definitely.
So I would take them to, somewhere in Beaver Lake if it's depending on the weather, but if it's nice, I mean, I'll take them to Beaver Lake and show them how beautiful our lake is. For food, probably, I've had a friend from California come in and, I think I took him to the rail. I think downtown has exploded lately.
Oh, for sure.
So, seeing downtown, seeing the park there, maybe a concert at the rail yard, something like that.
Yeah. Are they doing that is it every week they do that or?
There's programming for it, but
something like
lately,
that. Yeah.
Something like
it seemed like there's one or two every month or something.
That's what I've noticed. Yeah. I remember one time, I think I drove down there like every weekend and I remember there was always full there. People having concerts. So
no, they're doing a good job. So yeah, definitely something outdoors, maybe somewhere downtown for to experience the old school Rogers there, but
yeah.
For sure.
So you take them down to downtown Rogers, kind of show them the outdoors. Okay. What are some hidden gems in this area that most people don't know about? What are some of your hidden gems in this area?
That's thinking about that. I'm like, where? Because I feel like anything that I'm gonna say, you guys might have gone to, but like for somebody new, if you want, in my opinion, the best tacos in the area, you go to El Rinconcito. They have the best Mexican food. The history, they're not paying me for this, but they're just good food. They have their own tortilleria right across.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I've heard that. Yes.
And they started that little hole in the wall. They started with just like 2 tables next to the tortilleria, and all you could order was tacos there. And my wife actually introduced me to this place, and we used to go there for the best tacos al pastor, right? So we went there, and all of a sudden that kind of blew up, and now they have their own, restaurant right across from the tortilleria, and it's right across, like going north on 8th Street after the neighborhood Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right across from like the pawn shop.
Yeah, the pawn shop right there.
That little area.
Yes,
it's hard to find parking there, but it's always busy. But that's probably the best, in my opinion, best tacos you can find. A new spot that I recently discovered is. Sorry, I'm a foodie, man, so I love food.
Send them.
But
the food is good.
The next place would be Tacos El Moy, and it's a food truck. If you're going south on 8th Street, before you get to the Metroplex, it's a red food truck to the right, next to this weird like car dealership setup.
I know where it's at. Yes.
They have some good tortas cubanas there. So
I drive by that food trailer all the time.
Oh, you got to try it.
I have to try it, man.
Yeah, that's a good spot.
And Rinconcito is a good one too. I haven't had their tacos personally, but I've had their pozole. Oh, dude, it's so good.
Oh, it's just so authentic.
I know.
But anything with the tortillas, you got to know that they made them 30 minutes ago across the street, like literally right there.
No, the tortillas are good, man. Like what I do is I get the tortilla and I put it on my palm and I roll it like this. I put my hands together and I roll it and I just dip it in the caldo and then
that's what's up. Yeah,
it's so good.
Man, a good tortilla, bro. You know who I think of has one of my favorite tortillas is La Taranda, man.
Yeah.
I love that tortilla for some reason.
I don't know why.
It's like a wheat tortilla or something.
They're good.
Something about that tortilla and their tacos, man. Like, no sé, like, siempre que voy ahí, it hits every time.
You notice the talk about inflation here a little bit, but I used to go to Taranda when they only had like, probably you weren't born yet, but I don't know how old you are, but like they only had tacos and burritos there for sale before. And they used to be like the burritos, like big size burritos were like $3.50. So we would go play at Veterans Park and we would walk down to Taranda, and it was like our friend's sister who was the cook there. And dude, we used to pay $3.50 for a burrito. And like now going back in there, $10. I'm like, whoa.
Oh, I know.
I blinked and what happened? But man, that's one of the OG spots. Like people never knew that they actually sold food back there. But no, that's a good spot too.
That's definitely a good spot.
Yeah, because I didn't know that it was a restaurant either until I got with my fiance. You know, her mother really loves that restaurant. Like that's her favorite spot. And so anytime I'd go in there, because I remember we're Honduran, right? My family, so we didn't really find ourselves too much in Mexican spots.
Yeah.
But then I went with my fiance, right? And then I realized there was a restaurant. I was like, "There's a restaurant back here? I didn't know there was a restaurant here."
You miss it. They even have the little wall. Like you miss it.
If you're not paying attention, you're not even gonna know it's there.
Yeah.
So
no. And then shout out to the Onyx if you need a cool place to study or just meet with somebody. The Onyx for coffee. I think it's the one downtown Rogers. It's a really cool spot. I need to check out the one in Springdale. Have you guys been there?
I have.
I have not.
It's really cool.
Okay.
It's 3 levels.
Whoa.
Oh, okay.
So you go in and it's where you order your coffee and it's a lounge area, super chill. And then if you want maybe more of a quiet setting, you can go upstairs and they have like these little booths on the walls. So you can go and study your work. And you even have the option to reserve that entire space if you want like a team meeting or maybe a team lunch up there.
Okay. That's pretty tight.
And then downstairs, if I'm not mistaken, they have where they like a chocolate factory, kind of. Like they sell chocolates or whatever down there. They have like this little shop, I think, like a local brand. I think it's called Hello Local.
Okay.
They sell like T-shirts. They give out stickers. So it's cool. I would recommend.
I'm gonna have to check it out. Yeah. I just heard about it.
It's super cool. Super cool.
Yeah,
it's pretty neat.
Yeah, I'd recommend it for sure. All right, Christian. So we're kind of at the end here. We really love to tie all the episodes together.
Yeah.
Right. So what we do is we have our previous guest leave a question for our next guest, excuse me.
For sure.
So the question, this was from Mayor Greg Hines. He asked, the question he left is, what do you geek on?
Yeah. Well, lately, I think just the beautiful trails in the area, man. I've really gotten into mountain biking, and I mean, yesterday, like I said, I only planned to do probably 5 miles yesterday. Ended up doing 14, 15 because I found this new trail that I just kind of got lost in. And I just feel like nature is such a beautiful thing to kind of reset your body and reset your mindset. And so anything that can disconnect me from the busy lifestyle that I have during the working months. So yeah, lately it's just been nature and mountain bike trails. I just love to learn new things, and so I would definitely say that, and obviously, soccer, but the new thing lately for me has been mountain biking.
A good trail.
Trail.
It reminds me of my cuñado, Jaime. He loves mountain biking too. Like any chance he can go, he'll go. It's a little tougher for him now because he has his 2 sons, but anytime he's got time, he's like, I'm leaving, I'm going biking, and then he's gone for however long.
It's cool, man. I ran into a few deer yesterday, some beavers. That's the cool part, is like you get out there and I feel like nowadays it's hard, every place kind of developing neighborhoods here and there. So it's hard to see nature like that. And I know I grew up around the mountains in El Salvador. So that's really my thing, man.
Very
I
true.
Love being in nature.
I wish they had it might be some time, but I wish they had a connection up here in Pea Ridge to go to like Rogers or Bill.
I'm sure they're working on it, man.
I think they are, but it takes a minute because I'd love to get on a greenway. I'll do the paved trails.
Yeah. Oh, they're fun too.
Yeah. The paved trails are also beautiful too, man. But I've heard great things about the mountain bike trails. But man, that's cool. That's cool. Christian, now it's your turn to leave a question for the next guest.
Okay.
So it can be any question.
So my question would be, when was the last time that you learned something new, and how did that impact, your everyday life?
Okay. Very good. I like that question. It because you talk about their experience and then maybe how they're applying. Okay, that's a good question. I like it. I like that question.
Man, that's good. That's good.
Let's see. Yeah. Well, Christian, again, thank you so much for again making time out of your schedule. I feel like I always say this, but for me, time is super, super valuable. You don't get any time back. So anytime that you're willing to share with us, we truly are grateful. So thank you so much for driving out here, sitting down with us for an hour, getting to know your story.
Yeah, no, it's been great. No, thank you guys. Thank you guys.
Dude, this has been a pleasure. It's an honor and a privilege to have you here, Christian. It feels good to connect, to hear your story and just get reminded on those things. Every time we sit with somebody, it's such an encouragement, and it's like getting remotivated every week, just hearing everyone's story. It brings so much joy and just pleasure just to hear all these different stories. I mean, it's I don't have any words to say how much the podcast has blessed us, I think, I hope that's what it, does for our guests, but even for us too, on this side, it's amazing, man. I think about these episodes, even let alone when I'm editing or recording them or anything, and then just going back, I'm like, oh man, I didn't know about Christian. I didn't know about the Greg Hines or something like that. It's just been a blessing, unexpected blessing for sure.
I think it's important. At times we forget that everybody, whatever you're struggling with, you're not alone, and there's people that are dealing with different ways. And I think it's important, when you get to sit down with somebody and learn from their journey and how they handle a certain circumstance. That's one of my favorite things to do when I meet new people, or even doing this, reconnecting here and sitting down with you guys, just kind of learning on how, when through reflection, you can really start putting the pieces together, That's
right.
I think I just did I don't do every month or every week episodes of my podcast. I do it kind of when I feel creative. But the latest episode I did was on the 11-year journey to win a championship. And what I remember from preparing for that episode was that multiple times I felt like maybe I wasn't the right person for the job, or maybe somebody needed to come in with new ideas or things like that. And man, you never know how close you are to achieving your goals. And hopefully, everybody has their circle that keeps encouraging them.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
I think that's where this is so meaningful, where we are now with our program, is looking back. Barkers, Fermin. I know you guys had him on the podcast.
Yeah.
He's been a guest to motivate my team. The people that kept encouraging me to keep going and keep doing things are now those that I get to turn back and say thank you, because we achieved one milestone for a program, and we wouldn't have done it by listening to the naysayers, listening to the noise. But a little message, man. If you're out there, listening to this episode, just whatever it is that you're passionate about, just keep going and try not to worry about the noise and put in the work. Have good people around you, and before you know it, you might be sitting here celebrating a big milestone.
That's definitely true. Well, Christian, thank you again. We really appreciate your time. Folks, thank you for tuning in. You know where you can find us at Instagram at SO NWA podcast. But take care, guys. Thank you.